Perfect. So to jump right in, I'm a textile artist and a knitwear designer, like Philippe mentioned, and I'm based out of Brooklyn. I'm also a part-time faculty at Parsons, so it's a round circle. And I've essentially spent the last 6 years of my life unpacking cotton as a commodity and a raw material, and essentially my interactions with it. And I find that at no point in my existence have I come across anyone who has not interacted with cotton on a daily basis, irrespective of whether you live in the East or the West, if you're 6 or 60. We collectively continue to be connected through this fiber that we adorn on ourselves and on our homes at all times. The t-shirt in your closet, your underwear, your favorite blue top, the curtain in your living room, the bed sheet that you rest on, there's a good chance they're all probably cotton or blends with cotton. We come across cotton so often, but rarely do we really question the origins of this mythical fiber that sort of grows and blossoms into perpetual beauty in all of our lives. And to give you a little background into my journey with cotton specifically, it started off being very personal. I was essentially holding on to a fuzzy memory of visiting a cotton farm as an 8-year-old with my father in India, and the visual of acres of land with white fluffy flowers spread across densely, and my footsteps behind him never really left my mind. And over the years, I feel that I've started feeling really disconnected towards the textiles I had access to versus the white fluff I'd seen when I was 8, that I really began this journey of learning how to make my own textiles from the very seed to stitch, understanding the journey of the cloth that we continue to sort of wear. And interestingly, as a body living between two continents at this point, India and the US, I realized there was this extensive history with cotton that both continents sort of share. And I was extremely interested in investigating the interweb of the words cotton, cloth, colonialism, and community. And historically, what I learned was that in the Indian model, cotton cultivation and the production of cotton were largely in the hands of small independent craftspeople. We're looking at farmers, spinners, and weavers, while in the Western model, it was more hierarchic. Sorry. And the control essentially lied in the hands of owners of plantations and sort of mills, with profiteering rather than subsistence as its basis. And this is and was early capitalism. Slavery, colonialism, and forced labor, amongst other forms of violence, were not aberrations in the history of capitalism, but were at its very core. And they continue to be in a modern sort of way. So to give you a little gist, I believe my journey really started with 2 questions. And one was, why are we currently still leaning on systems of cotton farming and textile making that not only harm the environment, but also strip farmers of their agency? And the second one being, why are we still depending on genetically modified and foreign seeds that are simply not compatible with the land, when instead we must be looking towards reviving regenerative indigenous varieties of crops that have been in the land and the legacy of the land for generations at this point. To sort of add on, I think I was also thinking of this cotton fiber as something to form connections with those who've lost, those who we've essentially lost over the years. And a question that stayed with me throughout was, how are we connected through the relationships we share with the soil, seed, and fiber, collectively shared by generations from time immemorial? And as I essentially familiarized myself further to the landscape of cotton farming in India, I came across Kala cotton. Now, Kala cotton is a miracle cotton crop that grows completely on seasonal rainfall, which means it can grow without any artificial irrigation or the use of pesticides or insecticides, which also means that the land the degradation of the land essentially is negligible. It doesn't exist. There are no chemicals that are going back into the soil. And cotton being notorious for its water consumption and generational soil degradation, I was extremely interested in this crop that completely disappeared from the Indian farming landscape since colonization and the British occupation in India. As part of my practice, I spin cotton on a peti charkha, which is essentially a spinning wheel, which was popularized by Gandhi. And it sort of is something of this sort, which kind of falls into a briefcase. So it's compact and portable, so you can really move with it, spin everywhere, essentially, which I find really beautiful. And the wheel essentially in the history of our culture, or if I mention essentially the history of Gandhi sort of popularizing the wheel has such a sort of deep meaning within the community because it was supposed to uplift communities and revive the economy through simply hand spinning and hand weaving fibers that were native to the land, and by boycotting foreign goods made on machines in Manchester. Khadi has been an integral part of the civil disobedience movement towards a more equitable and decolonized India. And something that continually intrigues me is to see how textile making practices such as Khadi united a whole nation of people across different ages, caste, religion, gender, and socio-economic backgrounds towards freedom. And I will quickly share a little video of me spinning in the intimacy of my home to just give you a little context of how liberating and beautiful this journey with the spinning wheel has been for me. It's a short video, so hopefully the network should be not too bad. So what this tool essentially is a small briefcase, and it's so well designed as a tool that's really about 20 inches long, and you can twist, pull, store, and wind yarn back into sort of hanks on the same tool. So not only are you spinning cotton, but you're also winding it into hanks. And moving back to the presentation. And to sort of give you a little more context, here on the left, you see a photo of a hand-woven muslin made by hand-spun indigenous cotton as fine as 1,200 count, made by an unknown weaver in Dhaka. And the right is a sample of a hand-knit, hand-spun Kala cotton textile with a yarn count of about 40 that I spun at Central Park. You can see how visceral the cloth on the left feels. It's so buoyant, it's so lightweight, it's absolutely unachievable by any spinning machinery in the world today. And what continues to be an irony is that though indigenous varieties were so well known to produce the finest cloth, they were unsuited to the new textile machinery invented in England. And nearly now, after 74 years of independence, in a complete reversal, up to 96% of India's cotton area is covered with BT cotton hybrids, and leaving very little space for cotton native to that very area. The British left behind a twin legacy of agrarian distress and a lack of pride in indigenous short staple cotton. The farmer no longer has any control over the seeds and cannot reuse the new hybrid varieties. They essentially have to buy it and then get sucked into a cycle of debt. However, there are small parts of the country that still grow indigenous cotton in surprisingly arid lands. So these are desert areas growing cotton. And I just want everyone to take a minute to take that in. Cotton growing in desert areas is a miracle, really. And this way, cotton cultivation can completely rely on indigenous seeds that farmers own and can reuse with each harvest and have low input in the form of cattle manure and natural sort of means. Traditionally, hand spun and hand woven, my practice progresses into thinking of Khadi as a system towards building a personal autobiographic fictional essay through hand spinning and hand knitting Kala cotton. I believe that Khadi can resurface today in the modern world to offer a well-rounded answer towards climate change, systematic oppression, and wealth disparity. A Khadi knit t-shirt, for example, can reduce 97% water consumption and 93% carbon footprint compared to any regular cotton t-shirt made by machines. Also here you see the work is essentially made between my two homes at this point, New York and New Delhi. And really what it's done is it's become a morning ritual for me where I spend an hour spinning, and it could be in the park, in a public space, or in my home. And what I've really started to do is take note and be present with my surroundings, be present with the breeze on my face, and just be present in that moment with my material and with fiber and what I'm doing in general for the world, or what my sort of existence means in a larger sort of scale of things. Thinking about the work through the lens of performance as well, I practice spinning sort of at Central Park, at Riverside Park. I would spin in the Bronx. So I'm perpetually with my spinning wheel also taking a note of the spaces I take space in, essentially. And while working with Kala cotton came with its challenges, since it is a very short staple fiber, it also involved rethinking and remaking my own tools so that it could aid the production of this one-of-a-kind textile. And it's been so emotionally rewarding to be able to understand the labor surrounding making cloth, from what may look like fluff to the 8-year-old me back in the day. Spinning cotton has been, like I mentioned, I can talk about spinning all my life. I think I feel very emotional about spinning as a practice. And really it's guided me through crazy adventures. But I will keep that on a minimum. So yes, the work is essentially made between New York and New Delhi, like I mentioned. And the work exists as future heirlooms, family portraits, and objects of remembrance. I'm really trying to build these objects so that I can connect with people who maybe don't exist in the same time as me, but through these objects, through this cotton, we can really share this collective legacy and these narratives through these objects. The work has started finding ways to become bigger and bigger, almost to a point that it has become bigger than my tiny body at this point. I invite friends to experience the work, to be enveloped in the work, to be photographed in the work, to be intertwined, and to be documented, to rewrite and extend these narratives to just beyond me. Something that started off being so personal has now taken sort of shape into a project that's more communal and something that has sort of strength to heal and to sort of be with people. And that's been extremely beautiful as well. The work is kindly up on view at a group show called Materialistic at Mana Contemporary in New Jersey. And if you're in New York and want to see the works in person, I would highly recommend you book a little appointment online. And this was just the only self-plug we're going to get today. And I think I just like to say that I strongly believe that matter is key, but matter is also emotional. It is tender and it is lingering. I really believe that the last touch of those who came before me can still be heard, seen, and felt, and will be so for those after me through this matter that has existed through all time. Why I believe this work is so important to me is partly so these narratives can never be stolen or forgotten ever again. I'm so grateful to have my practice as a means to find authenticity within, and through these objects find meaning in my existence, to be able to write these personal stories, to be experienced by the world. I'm so happy today to have heard from so many makers and farmers and folks pouring into the chat who collectively share the school of thought, that being close to matter can be so nurturing and liberating. While folks who come across my work are perpetually confused as to which label to put me in. Does she work as a fashion designer? Is she a sculptor? I believe I'm both and neither. I'm a maker guided by my medium, fiber. And I think I'd just like to conclude with what a huge part of this work is, and what the future of this work is now, is to essentially build a very physical seed bank. I see seeds so key in keeping this information alive and for the work to really grow. I started building the seed bank of indigenous cotton seeds across India and the US. And an example of some of my favorites also seen here are Kala cotton, which is the primary sort of cotton strain that I work with, which is native to Gujarat. I mean, I got these seeds from Gujarat. And Suveen cotton, which is a cotton that is essentially a hybrid of Sea Island cotton and a local strain found in Tamil Nadu. And I think a lot of us are also familiar with Sea Island cotton, which I collected from Texas. And what's interesting between the three is Kala cotton is a really, really, really short staple length fiber. And on the contrary, Sea Island cotton is known for its long, lustrous sort of staple length. So I hope this work sort of resonated with you today. And on a little parting note, I think I would like to take this opportunity to also invite you all to collaborate with me as I continue to build the seed library across the globe. My aim really is to understand the cotton footprint across the globe and essentially really have this work grow. So if you're a cotton farm, you're an academic working towards the study of cotton, or just a cotton lover, I'd love to hear from you. And also, before I end, I would also additionally like to give a huge, huge, huge shout out to Khamir, without who none of this work would be possible. Khamir is a nonprofit organization that continues to work towards the revival of Kala cotton. Khamir works with a network of farmers in Gujarat who grow, sow, harvest, and gin Kala cotton. So that is it from me. Thank you, Philippe. Thank you, Lee, for having me. And I hope you all.
Thank you, Shradha. It makes us so hopeful and happy to see this discourse. I think you are understanding what you're doing every time even more, so it gets more perspective while we go. And I think it's, we will definitely invite you to Florence very soon to share this with our students also. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lee.
You're so phenomenal, Shradha. It's like you're the reincarnation of Vandana Shiva, but she's still with us. So I don't know how it's possible to have the two of you at the same time. It's really, really phenomenal. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Philippe.